All right, good evening. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call together the March 13th, 2025 school committee meeting. If you would please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This evening we have our consent agenda posted, which contains the minutes from the February 27th, 2025 meeting, as well as the oath, bills, and payroll. Already have a chance to take a look at those. Good. Is there a motion to accept?
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Motion made by Elaine,
Second.
seconded by Janine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. This is a special meeting this evening. This is our fiscal year 26 public budget hearing. Better clean this up before I forget. So what I would like to do is invite Kelly to the podium, who will kick off the presentation with some slides about school year accomplishments and the various programming that we have that goes into the budgetary process. And then I'll take over and walk us through the request for fiscal year 2026. We'll open it up for public comment, and then we'll look to close based upon discussion among school committee members. Sound like a plan? Sure. Great. All right. I'll read standard 3 while you prepare. So that's at the top of page 1. So alignment of district strategic plan standard 3, community engagement, communication, preserve and enhance communication strategies between the school district and its constituents. The essential question this evening is, how does our financial planning relate to the district's core values, mission, and beliefs? We're welcome.
Thank you. Could you move the slide deck forward? So every agenda that we've had that you've been on the school committee has our mission statement. It's a very important statement. Our mission statement really is a measure of whether or not we're doing our jobs or not. And we have to be able to accomplish our mission. It's the very essence of our existence. So our mission is to foster a community of learners who strive for excellence and prepare each student to be a successful, contributing citizen within a global society. As a district, we commit to evolve together as a diverse community through education, accountability, and compassion. 4 core values that we live by every day within our district: respect, responsibility, integrity, and accountability. So I'm happy to report that our proposed budget this year allows us to continue to actualize our mission and our strategic plan. And I think that's important, because when we develop budgets, our strategic plan is at the top of our list of priorities. It's our roadmap, and we take that roadmap very seriously. School committee does as well. Have alignment to our strategic plan at each meeting. We go over it in the summertime. We have copies of it, and it really does help to ensure that we are not only actualizing the strategic plan, but we're pursuing our mission for the district as well. The accomplishments, are aligned to the strategic plan. We have 5 standards in the strategic plan. We've combined our elementary schools, so Shaker Lane and Russell Street are in alignment, which is really nice. And because of the length of tonight's agenda, I'm going to focus on 2 or 3 highlights for each accomplishment. So we'll begin with the elementary schools, Shaker Lane and Russell Street. First standard in our strategic plan is curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And the first item I'd like to bring attention to, we're in the process of updating our curriculum maps in each subject area. This is not only happening in our elementary schools, it's happening in our entire district. We've done this before. As you know, we have a curriculum review cycle every 6 years. We are using new programs with the Google Classroom now. We can do a lot with Google Classroom, so we're transferring those transferring. Boy, I'm tripping over words right now.
It's contagious.
That's
Sorry.
nice.
Yeah.
Let me shake my head a bit here. We're transferring the curriculum plans over to Google Docs, and we're also updating. What that does, it allows us to have horizontal and vertical alignment in all subject areas. Now I'm back in. So the next accomplishment, this is the third year of implementation of Into Math in grades K to 5. This year, we're focusing on assessment strategies and design. We're still using the leadership team and the consultants, and it's made a world of difference. We're focusing on assessment because that's a super important component of evaluation of how well the program is doing. As you all know from the data that you are given every year, there are a number of online assessments. And we needed to have a thorough discussion about how do we use online assessments and make sure that the students are learning step-by-step process, for example, of solving problems. So we're moving forward, and our staff are in line with what we're doing, and that's really important because there was a bit of trepidation when they started doing online assessment. When you think of a grade 1 student, for example, doing an online assessment, that's a real change in what we've been doing in the past. It's our third year, so it's not new to us, but when we do anything new, we need to evaluate it and reflect on what we're doing. So this is what we're doing our third year. And all of you know, we're working on a district-wide portrait of a learner. That's going very well. We have identified 6 competency areas, which I will list: effective communicator, critical thinker, skillful collaboration, health and wellness, mindful learner, and engaged citizen. We also have what we call a parking lot in case we want to add another competency. But at this point in time, there's been no desire to, but we want to keep this as an option just in case something does come up prior to the time when we finalize this plan. The last meeting, we actually looked at different areas to identify for each competency area. And we just did that on Tuesday. And we're in fairly close alignment. The next exercise is for the schools to transform the language into language that their students will understand. Then the next step after that is developing I can statements, which I love, by the way. Like, I can statements are incredibly important. Professional development, we continue to focus on universal design for learning. This has been a district-wide initiative for, I think it's our 4th year now. This is also the first year of implementation of WIT and Wisdom. We have an implementation team and a consultant. And as you've heard me say before, the implementation process is going really well. It is a heavy lift for our educators. We want to be cautious that we're not moving too fast. And we want to be aware that they can only do so much at one point in time. This is all new materials. This is a new mindset. Our educators have really had to unlearn some of the things that they were doing in the past and learn something new. So it's a lot of work, but we're already seeing the benefits. One of the powerful things about this curriculum is it uses an interdisciplinary approach. It introduces social studies, art, and science. So students are not only learning how to write and read, they're learning about different subject areas, which is what it should be. If you dare to think back many years ago when we had self-contained classrooms, and some of you probably weren't even educated in a self-contained classroom, but they did exist at one time. That was standard practice back then. And as we specialized, we seemed to get away from that more and more. As the curriculum became more robust, it forced us even further away from that interdisciplinary approach. There are 5 content stages of WIT and Wisdom: wonder, organize, reveal, distill, and know. And when you think of that sequence, it's a pretty powerful sequence for students to follow. Do I need to be involved in this? Or?
No, it's
Next slide.
Oh,
The next slide.
Steve.
No, I think he's fine now.
Oh, okay. Good man. Culture and climate. We hosted the 2nd annual culture fair. It was nice to see Russell Street School join in the cultural fair this year. I think this was a wonderful move by our district to make sure that all families feel welcome and can share their culture with us. What a great experience for the community and our students. So I look forward to many more years of the cultural fair. We also have monthly classroom diversity readings. Topics include gender, physical, other disabilities, race, autism, equality, acceptance, and kindness. We've been doing that. I think this is our third year now, and it's certainly been a valuable strategy to use. Community and communication. Next slide, please. Our grade 1 and 2 new buddy program has been a great way for families to get to know each other and students to get to know each other. When you move into a new community, it doesn't matter whether it's small or large, there are social groups that are already formed for adults and children. So by doing this, we have an opportunity to welcome our new families and students in a more productive way and in a way that they're going to get to know families a lot faster. And that's so important when you integrate into any community. We continue offering Shakey's virtual storytime night. I love that storytime night. What a great way to connect with families. Hundreds of families together reading a story. It's wonderful. I didn't do a third one here. My apologies before I say it. Working with our school community to improve student attendance through our K-12 student initiative. We've seen some positive results. We want to be cautious and cognizant that we have different cultures in our community that travel to other countries. We also have students that need to be away for various reasons, and we need to have support systems in place for these students. So our intent is not to have 100% attendance rate, it's to help every student come to school every day when they're able to do so. And we've seen some positive strides with the initiatives that we've done this year. Technology, continued with our trimester-based K-5 STEM project. Fully implemented our interactive TV panels. This is a great addition, which has increased the opportunity for student engagement in all classrooms within our district, but especially in our K-5 classrooms as well. Middle school. Under curriculum instruction and assessment, we shared this a few meetings ago. We were nominated by DESE, our middle school, to apply to be considered for a blue ribbon school status. That was such an honorable status to have. We were one of 7 schools in Massachusetts that were invited to apply. We will submit the application within the next couple of weeks, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we'll make the cut, so to speak. This does not happen very often in a school district, so it is something to really celebrate. The fact that we're even invited is huge. Continued emphasis on creating opportunities to enhance relationship building between students and staff, tailored to increase investment and engagement. Relationships are powerful, and despite the age group of the student, students need to feel a sense of belonging and people care about them, and that there is something besides having to go to school and go to science or math. There's a connection, and those connections are so important for student learning. Professional development. The middle school partnered with Dr. Alex Hirschberg for professional development focused on increasing staff capacity to engage reluctant learners, developing classroom structures and create positive learning climates within all classrooms. I changed that one around a bit. It's not all about student behavior. It's about creating an environment that brings the best out of our students. There are a lot of ways you can do that. And one way you can do that is have them engaged within the classroom and having consistent expectations. I can't tell you how important that is. You can't expect students to follow the rules of the school unless they know what rules they need to follow. And every single teacher, every single staff member in that building needs to be following those expectations and also modeling the behaviors as well. So partnership. A continued focus on culturally responsive instruction, social and emotional learning integrated within each classroom. I think we've done a wonderful job in our district of that, but we still have a ways to go. We can't say that we're done. I don't think we're ever done in teaching skills, social emotional learning. And our staff need to model those skills as well. And they do a good job of doing that. Culture and climate, continue implementing universal mental health screening for the 7th and 8th grades, and SOS, which are signs of suicide for the 6th grade. Past 3 years, we've been doing a lot more assessing of our students in the middle school and the high school. And it allows us to really connect with students. And it's really important, as we all know. Community communication. Hosted the annual cookout for families to connect with staff and families before the start of the school year. Nice way to bring people together before the year begins. The only wish I have is we find a better area so we're not swarmed with wasps. We're cooking burgers. So a little distracting to say the least. Adopted school status communication platform, streamlined communication with families. This is the K-12 initiative. I hope you're seeing a difference in that platform. We're starting to use it more and more. And we're training more people. We trained our secretaries in our schools as well. We want to be cautious though that we don't put too much on there. So there needs to be some type of filtering, or we're just going to be inundated with too many posts. And the posts for the district are on the webpage now, so we now have pictures back again, which I'm super excited about. Technology. Work with the ELA department to implement AI in writing and other subject areas. We've talked about that before. Our district has embraced the fact that AI is here to stay, and we need to learn how to use it properly with our students and use it through example as well. Continue to use a PASS program to track student breaks and duration, schedule appointments, counselor, nursing office visits. It's our 2nd year of implementation, and Principal Everhart tells me it's going very well. It's kind of nice to know where your students are when they're not in class, especially at the middle school level. High school. Curriculum assessment and instruction, continued incorporating UDL practices and inclusive teaching in all classrooms, K-12 initiative as well. We look at three basic areas of UDL: multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression. We still have a ways to go. It depends on what school you're in, but we're making progress, and teachers will never all be at the same spot when implementing something that's huge. But I'm really happy to say that we're moving forward. We're doing a good job, and we'll keep noticing differences every year as we continue to implement UDL. It's the 2nd year of implementation of the SEL curriculum at the high school called Character Strong, which occurs during their advisory periods. As you know, that's one of my goals that you'll be seeing about my evaluation, to see the evidence and what's happening. I'm much happier this year with the implementation than I was last year. There was much more student input into the lessons, and teachers have a little more flexibility in developing lessons to tailor the students' needs that are in front of them. In the 1st year, we had to be cautious. We wanted people doing the same thing because we wanted to make sure that the curriculum was implemented with fidelity, but it wasn't working as well as it could. So we had to change our approach. It's working much better now. Professional development, reviewed the 6 competency areas of the portrait of a learner and identified skills in each area. Already talked about those 6 competency areas. Participated in professional development with NEASC about how to assess student skills in those 6 competency areas. Our NEASC reaccreditation is going to happen in May 2026, so it's not that far off. It is a reaccreditation process, so we have always been accredited and we will always be accredited. But there's a lot of work involved in being successful at that. So kudos to the high school administration and staff for doing what they need to do to make sure they're doing everything that's expected of them for reaccreditation. Climate and culture, continue to participate in the Great Kindness Challenge. That is such a great idea for high school. Kids love it. We've been doing this, I think, 4 years now. The high school is kindness certified, and so is the district. I don't think you'll find many high schools that are kindness certified in the state. And another exciting accomplishment, we continue to offer unified basketball bowling, and track and field. So 3 different areas for a high school our size. That's incredible. And, special thanks to the staff that continue to make this happen. Community communication. LHS student ambassadors have helped facilitate a workshop for middle school students by participating in the Playbook initiative, which we all know about. Second year of doing this. And this initiative is sponsored by the Boston Celtics. High school was recognized by Boston Magazine again this year. We ranked 7th in the high schools in the Boston area. It's another nice accolade to have. Technology continued to coordinate, facilitate the Tiger Tech team. Our Tiger Tech team consists of a number of students that are incredible at taking apart computers and fixing them. It's fascinating to watch them do this, and they're just self-starters. They come into the room, they grab their Chromebooks or Macs, and they just start taking them apart, figuring out what's wrong with them. They also provide help to our senior members of our community as well. As I get older, I can't keep changing that phraseology. We also launched the Sisters in Tech team, where students provided staff training in the use of Canva, which is a presentation software to produce posters, etc. Some of the presentations we do here are done in Canva. This was not done in Canva. Have a lot more action going on. And that brings me to the end of accomplishments. And now we can go on to priorities. A lot of the accomplishments that I talked about are also embedded in the priorities for the next year, which is a good thing. You shouldn't find that your accomplishments are totally separated from your priorities, because these are things that should continue, and they should continue to evolve throughout time. So I'm not gonna go through all of them. Go through a few. First one, continue to meet the learning needs of all students. That's paramount. Why we're all here. Continue emphasis on student and staff wellness and enhance SEL learning experiences. Heavy on student and staff. If our staff are not healthy, that will affect how well they teach in the classroom. And we all know the pandemic has made some after effects, and this may not be directly to COVID, but directly to illness and stress, etc. And our district is not exempt from that. So I wanted to point that out. It's something that we're monitoring very closely as we move forward. Further develop instructional practices that integrates SEL and wellness, support inclusion, equity, diversity, cultural belonging, cultivate belonging as well, advance growth mindset strategies. The business we're in, that's something that we always need to do, to advance our growth mindset strategies. Develop and enhance executive functioning skills, reflect sheltered English immersion best practices. Been doing a lot in SEI, and as our demographics change, we have more students that fall into that category. Slide, there we go. Provide continued professional development, support multi-tiered systems of support. And we're really focusing on tier 2 and tier 3 supports now. We want to make sure that everybody has a good idea of how to provide those supports. Tier 3 supports are more specialized. Tier 2 supports can be provided in the classroom, but at times they're provided out of the classroom. Tier 1, all in the classroom. As we become better at implementing multi-tiered systems of support, we should actually see, or hoping, that our number of students on IEPs will decrease, because we're providing that support prior to them needing to be put on an IEP. That's not going to hold for all students, but we do have some students that are on IEPs with a few accommodations, and I really believe that if we have a strong MTSS system, there will be no need for that as we move forward and become better at doing this. Obviously, the actualization of our district strategic plan is paramount in our success. And I've already talked about those others, so I'll move on. I've talked about the curriculum review cycles. We have a 6-year review cycle now. And it doesn't always mean that there's a lot of money injected unless we're redoing our resources. Sometimes we'll do a curriculum review and just tweak a few things, and it's really inexpensive, but it's the process that's so valuable of reflection and looking at what we're currently doing, but making sure that we can't buy resources or use strategies that we're not, that aren't as good as we're using, that are better more correctly than we're using now. Continue to highlight civic education, which is really important, always been important. And I'll finish with our Shaker Lane building project. We are thrilled to be in the design phase of the project, and we are actually getting a better idea of what this school may look like on the outside and inside. I can't hardly wait till we have enough information to share that with the committee and the community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our chair.
Thanks, Kelly. Nice job. So we'll dive into the numbers here, but before we get there, we just have a quick reminder of the description of cost centers. For here, we can still on the next page. So just so that everyone can refresh. Okay, sorry. Total of 8. Sorry. Okay, you corrected me. Regular ed, special ed, student staff support, and other instruction. And then we've got system administration, school administration, transportation of buses, facilities, and maintenance. They're following slides tie out to some of these categories here in case you were wondering where we're coming up with that. So I'd like to start by just reviewing the timeline and all the work that went into this presentation. So this work started back in October as the budget subcommittee sat with the superintendent and business manager to identify some initial budget priorities. Of course, a lot of work goes into this other than just the 4 of us. It's the entire leadership team, the administration at the schools, all the way up from the staff to figure out what we need to do to get better. And then in January, we had an initial joint meeting with the Select Board and Finance Committee. Back in February, it was the preliminary budget. We're looking to finalize the budget this evening, and then this will go to the town in May for the town vote. Right, so this is the Cliff Notes version of where we are. Our initial budget request back in December 24, we're looking at a 3.55% increase over the fiscal year 2025, which totals out to $904,651. There was a lot of hard work and some massaging of the numbers as I'll walk you through here to get this at the 3.55% increase. As we've been talking over the last couple of years with some of the projects that are going on in town and where the tax revenue is associated with some of those projects, the town needed to operate as lean as possible or as level funded as possible. So I'm happy that we're presenting a budget of 3.55. It's a number that I believe that I know works for the Select Board and the Finance Committee, and we're certainly hoping it works for the town in May. So I'll walk you through this slide here. We've got the approved budget for fiscal year 2025, and then we've got the change in salary increase total here at the bottom of $740,234. So that first line item of $975,234, that is the contractual steps and lanes and cost of living adjustment associated with current staffing positions. In years past, what we've done is we've offset this figure here by just the school choice amount of $250,000. So we're fortunate enough to be a district that attracts and retains some school choice seats. We've received revenue from those towns that wish to send their students here from participating towns. So we're continuing with that tradition. We're applying a $250,000 figure to that, and then this is new this year, where we're basically looking at, for lack of a better term, like buying down some of this contractual increases by throwing $200,000 worth of federal grants at that. And when we look at the pre-K tuition received, there's a need. That program obviously has costs associated with it. Some of that is staff, of course. We're throwing $100,000 at that. So the total offset's $550,000. So at the end of the day, the net increase last year versus the current year versus next year is actually only $425,234, which is a great place to start. And then we looked at what changes we would like, or we feel that we need as the district has grown and our needs have changed. So the first one here is athletic director position. We are budgeting for an athletic director. We have one. He's great. We know that at some point that individual may look to retire. And the individual that we have is unique in the fact that he's not only an athletic director, he has classroom responsibilities as well. Upon that individual's retirement, we would look to hire just a pure AD. You can see the price tag for that position up there. We're asking for that money in the event that we need it. We have communicated to the select board and the finance committee that should we not need to go out and hire a replacement athletic director, that $80,000 line item will not be spent, obviously, and it'll fall to the bottom line, and that will end up in a capital project or be directed towards the Shaker Lane Building Committee, or Shaker Lane project. The second line on here is BCBA staff, 95,000. It's obviously a highly trained individual. There's a need for that. It's something that's well documented within our schools. There's just a greater elements of our population requiring those services. $65,000 technical support staff spend. We have a wonderful tech department. The technology, as we're all aware, is increasing each and every year. The amount of devices that those folks manage, the amount of networks, the amount of systems. That we have simply, our tech has simply outgrown the staff, and they're keeping up to the very best they possibly can, but it was time to go ahead and ask to add someone, and that's a $65,000 spend, we believe. And then, as we discussed a few meetings ago, we're happy to announce we now have a second school-based resource officer on the campuses of middle school and Russell Street. And that was something that we put in place. And this line item here is the line item that allows us to continue to fund that going forward. So the staff adds at $315 and totals up to $742.34.
Can I ask a quick question?
You may.
The 200,000 federal grants, is that money that we've already received, or?
So that's money that we typically receive, and we intend to continue to receive it. And that money was spent in other places, as it related to other educational needs. And as we were asked to be, level funded as possible, we're taking some portion of the federal grant money and applying it directly with salaries to knock that number down in terms of the request for fiscal year 26. So we don't believe that it's a line item that it's gone. Obviously, I don't want to get into politics tonight,
But we have a plan
obviously,
B
if
in
you turn on the
case.
news, there's talks every night of cuts and the like. So that's
Some of our federal money is paid in the prior year, so we use it the next year.
That's what I thought. That's why I was wondering if it had already.
So this money was, we already have it for next year.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the question is, are we gonna need to scramble if something happens?
So there's legislative risk with budget planning, of course. This is not as we described it to the select board and finance committee, this isn't a 1 year dog and pony show. So the numbers that are presented this evening, I believe, to the best of our knowledge, are sustainable. All right, and then now we're going to go through the operational costs. Some of these should look pretty familiar. So the D-Bus contract, the annual cost of living adjustment is estimated to be $45,287. Then we've got this line item here of $89,000. That was the ease in to the appropriated amount. So when we went from the 3-tier system to the 2-tier system and bought the extra buses or hired the extra buses and reduced or pushed the start times back, it was obviously, we thought it was too much for the town to swallow that all in 1 year. So we're easing this in. This is year 2 of 3, which the town has seen and has agreed. Select Board and Finance Committee have agreed to this $89,000 increase. The third item here is the $30,230, which is additional support service contracts, HVAC contract, other needs as it relates to operational spends where we've gone ahead and evaluated the amount of money that we anticipate spending and determined that we just aren't carrying enough on that line item. So the total operational increases for fiscal year 26 boil down to, no pun intended later with the boiler project, 164, 420, 417. So the grand total for the appropriated request from the taxpayer is $393,579, which represents 3.55% over the previous current year's budget.
It's pretty close to the rate of inflation, right?
It is.
Depending upon what you're looking at. So the next slide here is just our anticipated expenses from revolving funds for fiscal year 26. Thought it'd be worthwhile to walk through these. So the big one here is school choice, $850,000. So these are the anticipated spend downs out of some of our revolving funds. As we already alluded, there's salary offset that we're using, $250,000. We plan on using $450,000 worth of school choice revolving funds for capital projects that the school department plans on self-funding, which is tied to a strategy that we'll present next. And then there's about $150,000 worth of other spends throughout the budget that we're going to use our school choice funds. This is the only line item where we will likely take in less than $850,000. It's the only line item presented here where we're going to likely take in less and spend more. The other ones I'll go through, of course, but just wanted to highlight that. So probably not going to take in $850 of school choice money for fiscal year 26, but we plan to spend $850, and that's because our school choice funds are at a level that currently exceed 10% of our total budget, and we've agreed with the Finance Committee and Select Board that we should maintain a healthy balance, and that balance should be around 10%. So an $850,000 spend here gets us a little closer back to that 10% number. The circuit breaker funds, it's $950,000 that we will receive based upon current year special education spends. We'll have that money to spend first. It'll be likely the first $950,000 that we spend as it relates to special education costs. This is, I think some of these things are kind of interesting. So this is the $200,000 worth of bus revenue from the bus fees that the families pay for those that need rides to school. So we'll obviously receive that money, spend it, and we're jump back in the slide. You'll see how much, what appropriation we need to afford the total contract, but we'll receive about $200,000 and spend it. Pre-K tuition fees, there'll be about $160,000 coming out of that. 100 of it went towards the offset, and the balance of 60 grand. And then other revolving funds, we'll cycle through about $525,000 as it relates to Tiger's Den. $950,000, which is, I'll highlight, it's a Massachusetts free lunch program. A lot of talk at the federal level about some changes taking place with lunch programs, but that's in Massachusetts anyways. Lunch, the plan for lunch next year is for it to continue to be a free lunch offering. We anticipate receiving about $950,000 for that need, and we'll spend that down by exactly that amount. The athletic fees, about $125 coming in. Obviously, much more than that gets spent on our athletic programs, but that'll be the usage out of the revolving funds. High school auditorium rental fees, $120,000 spend coming out of there. Some of that's going into reserves associated with major replacements associated with the auditorium. But a lot of that's also when someone rents the auditorium, there's sound and lighting that gets with that, so that's kind of you might receive $120, but there's a lot of expenses associated with hosting that programming as well. And then other miscellaneous revolving funds, athletic fees, non-resident tuition, technology fees, building rentals, gate receipts, bucket gate. And then we've got the federal 240, Title I, 262. So the other funds on top of appropriated that we plan to spend to achieve all of the wonderful things that Superintendent Clinchey just brought us through, what our initiatives are fiscal year 26. On top of the appropriate, it's about another $4.607 million. All right, this slide here basically just breaks down fiscal year 25 versus fiscal year 26 and the differences in the percentages. So you'll see salaries, expenses, and totals. Want you to keep in mind that the salaries, that's 740. That's contractual steps, lanes, cost of living, 3.9%. Expenses are going up as level funded as we possibly can at 2.5%. And we total it to 3.55% increase. So here are the cost centers for you folks. So this is just another way to slice and dice sort of that same information. If you cheat your eyes over to the right-hand column, you can look to see where we've level funded for the most part to the best of our ability. And then there's a couple line items that stand out. So we've gone ahead and in parentheses there, listed a contributing factor to some of those percentages. So you can see under student and staff support, that line item contains the new school resource officer position. The line below that, other instruction, that's the anticipated need for a full-time only athletic director at some point in the near future. Under system administration, that's in the tech support, tech staff, and transportations, the cost of living and the cost of living adjustment COLA for that contract, as well as that $89,000 slide from our school choice spending over the appropriated. Here is the summary for you folks of town appropriated and revolving. So fiscal year 2025 approved budget and revolving fund spending as approved by us last year was $30,155,010. The breakdown as presented so far, the ask is for your support of $26,393,579. In addition to that, revolving fund anticipated usage of $4,607,645 for a grand total of $31,001,224. The appropriated piece, as I mentioned earlier, was 3.55. The grand total with revolving usage is just an increase of 2.8%.
That's as level funded as it gets.
Right? Thank you for showing it two different ways.
Welcome. It is, I appreciate the comment that it is level funded because that was the ask. But the good news is that we already had a great school system to start with. So we were, when I talked with members of the select board and finance committee, we presented a 3.55% budget increase, and they were pleased with that. I shared with Kelly was there. I shared, we would be asking for a heck of a lot more than that if we felt like we had significant strides. And I'm not saying that we don't have strides to make. We do. We got to dig in next year and get better. But we're fortunate that the town has supported the school district and realizes the importance of quality education in town. It's the pulse of the town. And we're in a good spot. We're just looking to get better. And through some creative finance, we were able to present 3.55, which is great. However, there are some major concerns moving forward, right? And some of these have been the same year over year, depending upon what night you're watching the news and which station you're watching. You probably have some new ones here, but obviously inflation's a factor, right? So the cost of everything's going way up, and who knows where it's possibly gonna go. We certainly take that into consideration. We're working off of numbers that we have and estimating conservatively where we think they might go, but we're not, raising the hysteria alarms by any stretch of imagination. We're also obviously concerned about where the cost of busing and building maintenance could go. Although we are fortunate to just kind of locked in the busing with that cost of living adjustment and the strategy. So we're in the early stages of that. I alluded to this earlier. One could be concerned about the town's appropriation support, but again, it's Littleton, and the value of education is top of mind here. So as long as we continue to do a good job, I think the town will continue to support us. Future collective bargaining negotiations, got some coming up in a year or two. You see that on the news from time to time with lockouts or demands and things like that. So we'd like to continue a nice working relationship with our various collective bargaining units, sit down, talk about what their needs are, talk about what our resources are, and have a win-win best we possibly can. And then a big one here is the ability to maintain school choice seats and associated revenue. We've been fortunate. Really, a lot of this work was done before all of us got here to get in the situation that we're in. We're stewards of the budget. We need to make sure that we spend each dollar wisely. And there was a major emphasis on building this school choice account up. And it was used to put the full day kindergarten program in place. It's been used for the change in start times. We're using it to fund our own capital projects for the next couple of years for the Shaker Lane project. So we would like to continue to have school choice seats so that we can continue to receive that revenue and reinvest those dollars back into our district. Obviously, housings could have an impact, although I will share that the overall trend is that enrollment is down sort of across, I'll say the state for the most part. So if you don't have new housing coming into your town, you might end up in a situation where your enrollment trends down. People, they move to Littleton for a number of reasons, the schools being one of them. They fall in love with the town, their kids go to the school system and they stay. And we do need new housing to bring enrollment into town because we have programming for this particular enrollment. And if enrollment varies widely, changes need to be made, and change is hard. And if we can continue to sort of have level enrollment in town, it makes the budgeting process a little bit easier. Capital funding concerns over the next 10-year plan. There are some big ticket items which are listed below. I'll exclude the Shaker Lane one, but HVAC upgrades, rooftop units, roof projects at the high school, middle school, Russell Street, big boiler replacement project at the high school. The finance committee's asked for sort of a 10-year rolling plan on these line items to highlight what potential needs could be. We have formally agreed to self-fund some smaller projects to the tune of $400,000 to $450,000 over the next 2 fiscal years, which is going to help that Shaker Lane project immensely. For the larger ticket items such as rooftops, boilers, if there is an MSBA program for these types of plans, we've committed to applying for those projects. In the event that we were to be accepted for additional state funding, which is an offset, right? They assist. I believe that the town is in position to fund those projects upon acceptance. So I initially had a concern. Well, if we apply and we get in too early, are we kind of caught without the town having the funds set aside? And the town's done some tremendous work in planning to make sure that if and when we get into some of these programs to help offset some of these big ticket items, the town's ready to contribute their portion. So it's been a really great partnership with the select board and the finance committee on some of these topics. And then I want to close with just a major thank you to all folks involved and the support that we get from all of our community partners. And I will open it up for questions, comments, criticism.
Just as in the transparency of this is stunning.
Well, you're on the committee, so.
I know. Okay, somebody else.
I didn't have to say that.
But I do appreciate the comment. And
It's really Steve.
you know, it's great to work with Steve and Kelly, and I also, I do wish to acknowledge the select board and finance. I mean, I think it's really been a three-legged stool effort this year. We look forward to continuing to work well together.
If we do go to the MSBA for some of these other projects, what would the timeline be like for that?
So, no,
Hard to say.
go ahead. I mean, I'm gonna say something and then you want to jump in, so.
The window to submit the SOI, I think, is open till, I think, April sometime this year. So we'll get that in the next couple of weeks. We'll have to go to Board of Selectmen, get their approval, and school committee to get their approval to submit the SOI. MSBA takes 3 to 4 months to go through all the applications and decide who gets accepted in. And then if you get accepted in, it's similar to the timelines that we've seen with Shaker Lane School. You have to go through studies and you have to get the engineering involved and you have to hire the project manager and things like that. So it's a year to year and a half process, probably because before any actual construction project actually starts, because you have to do all this other pre-planning, paperwork, engineering studies before that happens. So
Does that timing line up to when we need the work to be completed?
it would, yes.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We hope to get in as we need to work. I mean, the projects identified, we know that we're gonna need new roofs. We know we're gonna need a new boiler. We know we need new HVAC units. We're limping that stuff along year by year in hopes that we're fortunate enough to get into one of the programs, and then that would be the year in which we proceed, because we'd have hopefully a bit of a major offset to the cost, because it would be unfortunately it would be picked up by the state.
Yeah, we're trying to address the projects before they become a big issue.
Right.
So address the roof, put a new roof on it before we start having leaks all over the place that we can't manage it.
Yeah.
Replace the boilers before they actually crash and things like that. So we're trying to be proactive.
We feel this year is the first year we can actually do it. Not hopeful of being accepted. Very seldom are you accepted the first round of the application, but we feel that the roofs and the boilers have that life expectancy where we have a better shot of being considered. We would have applied 2 years ago, they wouldn't even look at us.
And so our consideration is independent of what's happening with Shaker Lane?
Yes.
Like, they're not gonna look at
Yeah,
it.
no,
here?
No, it's independent.
It is independent, but Shaker Lane could have some advantage when we take a look at boiler replacement. Because we're looking at energy efficient ways of heating Shaker Lane, cooling Shaker Lane, and who knows, whatever
No,
we decide to go with, we may replicate that model when the high school and the middle school need new boilers. Depends on the cost.
Well, thanks for being so on top of it.
I can speak. We spoke before the meeting started, so that's something I can bring up. The recent cuts that you heard about in terms of food service program really affect for schools. We all know what farm to table means. It's farm to school. So it's the contracts that school districts, including ourselves, have with farms in our community. For us at this point in time, and who knows if we're losing? I mean, there's so much unknown at this point in time. The state, like anybody in a situation where they don't have the money they think they have, is gonna do some reflecting and determine where their priorities need to be. So it may not even be something for us. But if it is, we're talking about $10,000. And we have a great relationship with our farms in town and with Leah at the helm of food services. I'm sure we can come up with something to continue our partnership. And we may have to spend some money, but we do have a good balance in our food services account. So as a superintendent, I'm not worried. I'm more worried about the fact that a cut has happened than what this cut would bring to us if it actually goes through. Well, I hope that helps, because I'm sure it's on people's minds as they see what's happening.
So essentially, we would continue and stay committed to that program, we think.
Almost definitely.
Okay. That's a really great message, because I know there's been some questions and posts of how this impacts.
And our farmers, I mean, they're already planning what they're going to plant. So they're keeping that volume of what we use in their planning process. So it'd be very unfair to them as well to all of a sudden have to go to them and say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do this anymore.
As long as the state and the governor support the Massachusetts free lunch meals for all students,
That's something different.
we're fine. But, and we can continue with buying the local fresh vegetables from local farmers that we do.
That's actually something I wanted to mention during your presentation, is that kind of given the political climate that we not only like maintain and continue to develop a lot of these things that are changing, but to almost double down on them, on some of the things that are being taken away or changed in regards to diversity and equity. It's really important to double down for the students that if the world seems chaotic, I really want to make sure that the schools feel like they're safe space and that we're not just kind of evolving with those changes. So I think that's something that's really important with the 2025, 2026 goals, is to really dig our heels into that stuff and make sure that we continue to represent all the students.
It'll always be important. As I said before, good school districts, schools have been doing this way before the label of DEIB. And it's something we believe in as part of our value system. So we'll continue, and our schools should be safe for everyone. We're not willing to move the needle on that.
Glad you brought that up, Stacey.
Yes.
I have a very granular, big grand scheme of all of the work that you have done. I would recommend, not for next year, but reevaluating the AD salary. Only because keep in mind that we have our AD, and a full transparency, he's my brother-in-law, so I know the depths of which he is committed to this community. He's had kids in the school system, but he's a top tier AD. And if we want to maintain the athletics that we have in our community, average for ADs is higher than 80.
Yeah,
So I just think the level of applicants that we'll get to replace those big shoes.
let us explain that.
Okay, go look.
The number in the budget is to replace somebody come in and teach full time. We already have a number for the AD. So it's just a matter of, we'll hire an AD, we already have the salary, but we have to make up for those classes that won't be taught.
So that's the difference, not
Yeah.
the salary.
Yes, not the
AD.
salaries.
Okay. Cool. I
Thank
just
you for
wanted to
pointing that out.
And my baby's coming in through too. And as much as I've tried to convince him to stay on for another 10 years, it's gonna happen.
Keep
So
working on it.
I would like to maintain the level. So that's that. Thank you first.
Sure. Front porch of the school system, right?
What's that?
I said it's the front porch of the school system.
Yes, that's right.
So I'll note that there's like 7 additional slides in the packet that go granular detail of the budget. So for those folks that are listening or watching later and they wanna find a way to get to sleep tonight, they can look at that information. But we're not gonna walk you through that. What's that?
Definitely put you to sleep.
Yeah, yep. So if you're looking for more detail, there's some in the packet. If there aren't any other questions, I'll ask for A motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 school department budget. Typically ask for the total budget with the appropriated amount as well.
Move to approve the FY 2026 town appropriation request of 26,393,579. With a total school spending authorization of 31,001,220.
Motion made by Beano,
Second.
seconded by Elaine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, y'all.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna hang here. We got public comment, so I'll pause to see if there's any public comment that wishes to take place as a result of the budget. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll close public comment. And then I need a motion to close the fiscal year 26 public budget hearing.
I move that we close the FY 26 public hearing of the budget.
Motion made by Elaine,
Second.
seconded by Stacy. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous support. We are closed the fiscal year 26 budget public hearing. All right, so the next item on the agenda, I think I'll just do from here anyways. That's all right with you guys. It's easier for me to see. It's a discussion of the draft debt exclusion override management plan, we're calling it. So this, it's not easier for me to see. This is a, I was gonna say 2 or 3 page document that was prepared by the select board, finance committee, and school committee chairs as it relates to how should the town or how should these future boards look to continue to fund the named 2 projects in this. So I will walk you through this and we can talk about it. And if we're in support of it, we can have a motion to accept it, or we can get it. So my version here, what's up there. Essentially what we're looking to do here is just have a working document shared among all 3 boards. The purpose of this is that boards change over each May with election. These are long-term projects. The finance committee and the select board have put a strategy in place that they believe is the very best for the town's long-term finances, as well as the taxpayers' burden as it relates to not only the Shaker Lane School, but the potential, I shouldn't say potential, but the need for a DPW facility. So while we can't bind our successors, it's laying out a roadmap for the funding of these projects so that as new committee members come on, they realize that there's a plan in place. They shouldn't look to buck the trend or the plan unless extenuating circumstances pop up. And then of course, all the boards got to get back together and reconvene and try to figure this out. But we've gone ahead and identified 2 projects, obviously Shaker Lanes, first and foremost, in our minds and our hearts. And we're saying that this project is an estimated cost of $104.2 million. We plan to present this at the fiscal year 26 fall town meeting with the debt exclusion and a ballot vote soon thereafter. The project is currently estimated to be completed November 2028, which would be fiscal year 2029. Bonding of the project would likely occur in the spring of 29, with the first bond payments due fiscal year 30. And then kind of to my surprise, because I'm not in the know on everything, but there's a need for a DPW facility in town in the near future. And a feasibility study's been performed, and an approximate anticipated spend on that might be as much as $45 million. We're disclosing that no time frame is currently set on this project. I believe the $45 million spend includes actually finding a parcel and purchasing a parcel for a new DPW facility. So just to give you a frame of reference, we've got our site picked out, we're moving to schematic design, we know when we're going to the town to ask for money. DPW, Select Board Finance Committee, they're in agreement that there's a need, but we don't yet, and what it could possibly cost, but don't even have a place for the new project just yet. Train of thought. Let's keep going.
Justin, just so you're aware, there's a mistake in the document on page 1. Where right under commitment Shaker Lane. We are going to the fall town meeting in FY25, not FY26.
Is it fiscal year 26? Is that why?
We're in FY 25.
No, the spring meeting is in the fall of 2025. So maybe
FY 26, though.
Which line are you on?
right under Shaker Lane construction. Says during the FY26 fall special town meeting. I guess we could say it's 25-26 budget. I just want to make sure everybody knows that it's actually 2025 in the fall.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is within FY 26.
It is.
Yeah.
I guess so.
If we're
it can be misleading, I think, if
It
you
could
read
be
it.
misleading.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand it, but I'm just not
yeah,
sure
so we
whether.
presented for funding at the fiscal year 26 fall special town meeting.
Mhm.
Is that statement not accurate?
It is, but I think putting 2025, fall 2025,
Okay.
but that's just a suggestion. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you could just add in November.
November
2025.
2025
Yeah.
in parentheses.
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah, good suggestion. I think as long as the 3 boards know what that means, we're fine. Certainly as a public document, all 3 boards have discussed it and shared it publicly at an open meeting, but we could have that. So let's see here. So in terms of the commitments, we're going to talk about the commitments. So as outlined, funding of the school stabilization fund to support the Shaker Lane project began in fiscal year 2025 and will continue through 2028. And then the bond payments start in 2029. The plan here is to get $6 million into this fund prior to the issuance of the bond for bond repayment. These funds will be applied towards the construction costs, reducing the amount of debt needed, and in return, reducing the overall impact of the debt exclusion. Funding is going to come from essentially the town's undesignated fund balance, UFB, or commonly known as free cash. So the good news out there is that the town anticipates revenues in excess of expenses. They'll have some savings. They're going to take that savings and apply it towards this account as well as some others, but this account, and then we plan to borrow less than the full amount of the project and use our $6 million. This is going to be accomplished in part by the school committee, school department, self-funding its smaller school capital projects, approximately $400,000. We had committed publicly to a $400,000 spend without asking for anything more, fiscal year 26, 27. The document reads $400,000 on average per year. And that the funding commitment will be dependent in future years on maintaining sustained level of school choice funds for this financial management policy, which reflects that 10% benchmark. So we had some discussion prior to presenting this. Is it necessary that we list out that, hey, at this point in time, our commitments are only for fiscal year 26, 27. I was assured that they understand that, and the hope here is that we would continue to fund the smaller stuff until we got in a situation where we were at 10% of budget, which is the recommended balance that we would keep in our funds there. So this leaves it open-ended. We can chew on that a little bit. If we do that, then the good news is that beginning in fiscal year 29, funding from free cash will shift to the debt exclusion stabilization account. This account's used to partially offset the excluded debt service. So as the bond comes due, the town's going to assist with some payments of the bond, and then obviously pass some on to the taxpayer through an offset. The town's looking to fund $500,000 per year, beginning fiscal year 29 through fiscal year 46. Big long-term commitment. The school committee commits to funding its capital projects as long as available funding exists. So what we've said, some of the smaller stuff, as our school choice account is pretty healthy, we're comfortable spending that down to 10%. We shouldn't go back to them in future years and ask for capital projects money if we have a balance in excess of 10%, which seems fair, which just shows you how important those school choice seats are. Right. The three boards agree that the funding for this town's normal capital plan will not be adversely impacted by deposits to the stabilization accounts. Town's capital plan maintains priority usage over the town's free cash position. They plan to do the same thing for the DPW project. So they're going to commit $500,000 for that project fiscal year 29 through 43. I had asked them, well, what happens if, so what they're really doing is they're committing either way to $1 million. And if the school was in need of the money and the DPW project lagged, would all $1 million go to the school? It could, or it would, I should say. But then once the DPW station gets built and there's a need for that, it's just going to stretch that timeline as well. So, the finance committee and select board chairs didn't seem to think, slicing and dicing the $1 million. They just said they're going to fund $500,000 towards each project. Other commitments that we're being asked of or that we're wishing to agree to, which is the school committee shall prepare a contingency plan that details the cost to be incurred, both one time and ongoing, if the debt exclusion vote were to fail. 2025. This contingency plan will be presented to the select board and finance committee by September 1st, 2025. They're actually asking us to present it sooner if we have the ability to do so. But as stated in the document, it's by September 1st, 2025. So this information will be incredibly useful because when we go to ask for debt exclusion, we're talking about a brand new school and what that could cost the taxpayer, and we're asking for a yes vote. A no vote doesn't mean it's a zero spend, because we currently have a Shaker Lane school that's antiquated and outdated, and so if it were to fail, what is the cost of a no vote? And that's what we are being asked to detail, so we can present that to the select board finance committee. They can chew on it, buy in on it, and hopefully cast the same opinion that a no vote doesn't mean zero spend. It means we're stuck with the Shaker Lane building and it's going to cost us X to maintain that building or to bring trailers in, all that stuff, update the systems without any state assistance. The select board and finance committee shall update its strategy for funding the 10-year capital plan each year moving forward, adjusting the balance as described as necessary. Finance director and town treasurer shall monitor and provide annual estimates covering a 10-year period for free cash, capital stabilization, debt exclusion capitalization, et cetera, et cetera. The financial plan does not preclude the town from evaluating and pursuing other capital projects or debt exclusion. So these are the two that are identified. not the only two that could pop up in the next 20 years. I'll share with you that, you know, when I first received this copy, or when I first sort of invited to participate in the conversation, I did feel that I didn't know a lot about the DPW need, and my initial reaction was, it kind of feels like you're piggybacking on top of us. And we had a conversation about transparency, and I think everyone in the room would agree that the citizens, the taxpayers deserve ultimate transparency. So, you know, ultimately, I'm in agreement that we can't walk the Shaker Lane project in front of the town and not have the citizens aware of a potential need for a DPW station of $45 million. I think the timing is unfortunate that we're looking to, you know, march the approval through and break ground at some point in the near future. And then there's this looming $45,000 spend that might be necessary. But it is what it is.
Did they say why it couldn't be a part of Indian Hill?
The DPW.
It's a garage,
It has.
it's
to
a
have
huge
garage.
structure.
Oh, yeah, it's a massive,
Oh, okay.
you know, it's a massive, like, you know,
Work on
center
their
block
trucks.
sheet metal building.
Okay.
I don't, again, I'm naive on the topic. I don't have a lot of details. I have been told that, you know, I would imagine that as the town has grown, the need for our equipment has expanded. It's probably outgrown that. I was told, the current staffing level of DPW doesn't actually even, the locker rooms aren't big enough. Like, people don't have a place to change, put their stuff, store their stuff. So they're
I don't know where they were. Okay.
behind Littleton Light Electric.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the timing is unfortunate.
Timing's important.
Yeah, so when are they worried that going to town meeting with the request for Shaker Lane, like, is there any concern that adding the DPW request on top of that may be the straw that breaks the camel's back
So
and
they're.
puts the Shaker Lane project at risk?
They're gonna, the plan is to talk about it, be transparent about it. It's not, I don't believe that the debt exclusion, it's not, it's not yes or no, like we're getting both or we're getting none. It's not, you gotta pick one of these two. It's, let's have an independent conversation about Shaker Lane and a vote. And when the time comes, let's have an independent conversation about the DPW station and have an independent vote. Could we end up with both? Yes. Could we end up with neither? Suppose one or the other, sure.
So it's not necessarily going to be
No,
at the same town meeting?
correct. The
Okay.
only place where they're actually tied together right now is in this document.
And this is just how we're all going to work together.
Correct. There's charts and tables in here that you'll see.
Yeah.
And that's just the math on how we get to where we need to be.
And trying not to surprise everybody. So
Right.
that's what I'm
Correct.
getting at.
I mean, we're all in agreement that it would be not fair to the citizen to say, hey,
By the way.
yeah, like, oh, great, we got enough yes votes, and then a year later, or whatever it is, 18 months later, we're looking for more money. For the needs of the DPW station. So it's part of the conversation, but it's not part of the vote.
Okay. So the vote is you're voting yes or no on Shaker Lane, and there may be this thing.
Correct. And oh, by the way, that maybe thing, we have a plan for it. That's the point of this, is we have a plan for both.
Can I just add something for this? And I think it's just generally speaking about the Shaker Lane project is that, we know that 104.2 million is a really big number for people to bite off. It's a really hard thing to take in. I think the fact that the MSB is reimbursing us and that it's actually the net cost to the town is actually less, sometimes gets lost in a lot of the conversation and a lot of the documents. So as much as possible, if we can put forward that it's 104.2 budgeted with this amount reimbursed and just lock those in together, because everyone's just going to pick up that 104 when that's not the actual number. So just even in this document, the paragraph that says the estimated cost of 104.2 million, for anyone to read that, they don't read the line by line items, they don't see that it's on this. So just a note.
Sure.
That's a good point.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point, and that's a good point for optics.
Correct. And, you know, $104 million school looks like a bargain, you know, in my opinion, compared to a $45 million DPW station.
Right, so when those numbers put together, you can, I mean, that's
No,
a
granted,
comparison
you know, the
too.
DPW folks are gonna have their counter opinion,
Right.
but,
Well, a $75 million school compared to a 45 million.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Like a net spend is
Yeah.
75 million, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, so.
So when we were at the MSBA meeting for our approval, our project was the smallest in terms of money. So it kind of, for me, it really kind of put things in perspective. in
Justin,
terms of
That's
it's in
What other
really-
communities are.
That's
are
really
spending on
important
schools.
information,
Yeah,
I would say, because initially it's sticker shock because nobody understands how much it costs. It's like nowhere near housing costs.
Oh,
So
is it?
that's
There's no like
very,
reference at all with that report, like no one has any.
until I
reference to
saw
that.
some other school that gets spent. you
So,
know.
so the numbers are in the document, and if you look on the page on the screen, it does show the projected costs
Yes.
with the MSBA
Yeah.
reimbursement.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I saw that, but it gets lost.
Okay, so you're saying maybe in the verbiage in the
Yeah.
paragraph,
Yeah.
it
In the
should say that?
yeah.
In the paragraph, just even if it's in parentheses, just so that number gets associated to, people know that we're getting something reimbursed. It's not just 104 out of our pocket.
Every time it says
Catch up.
hundred
Every
or
time
in
it's on, like,
parentheses,
parentheses.
minus
Just,
the
yeah.
MSBA reimbursement.
Yeah, or,
Yeah,
I mean, can we talk about the net town? We can't talk about the net because we have to pay the money up front.
Correct.
We have to have the money up
And
front.
this
before we
document,
get the
you know,
numbers.
We're all, a lot of good points, and those are points that should be shared with the public, certainly at the town meeting, the upcoming one, we plan to have the Shaker Lane talk, and certainly when we go for the debt exclusion. This, or what's presented here tonight is a document that we're being asked to sign, the select board has already signed, the finance committee plans to sign, or the other way around. It's public in the fact that it's been discussed about the meeting, but it's not the marketing piece for the project. It's a working document that relates to, hey, this is how we plan to raise the capital to fund these projects. We feel strongly that we want to reword it. Totally fine. I don't think they have any issues, but
No, I want to go back and have everyone re-sign it. I just think going forward, if just.
yeah, oh yeah,
generally
going forward, the
speaking, we just
language,
compare
yeah,
those.
the conversation should be. It's $104 million school with an, a net bond amount of $63 million. What a deal.
That's a huge, like, that's a big difference.
And do you know
in
what
my
schools
tax
cost
dollars.
nowadays?
Yeah.
Nowhere near $60.
Yeah.
So if you bring that slide back up. You have it, Steve, just we can look at the deposits of the school's building stabilization.
what was the number out of Lexington? Is it like several hundred million?
Mhm.
If you just scroll down a bit,
Which?
this gives you the fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 49. These are the additions going in year by year. What the commitments have been. And then as outlined in the document, there's that first $6 million usage fiscal year 29. And the corresponding balance with that spend down. And you can see the $500,000 continuous contribution. Thereabouts. So this is the projected usage of that stabilization account. If you go on to the next page. Total debt stabilization. Net stabilization, peg year. Here we go. So the following page. I think this is great information here. So when we first started talking about how to pay for $104 million school, which actually is only net 63 to us.
There you go.
The number was much larger than it is today, right? So what we're talking about, the tax impacts here. As planned, there's still a lot of variables. I'll assure you that some of these are, still conservative. However, as we look at it, we fine tune it, we're probably zeroing in on a pretty accurate estimate here. So if we were to assume on the far right hand column, the estimated tax impact on a split tax rate where commercial is different than residential, which is where we are today. It's $995 annually to the average value home in Littleton. There's a $670,000 house, somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 house.
Yeah, the goal
Which
was to
is-
get it below 1,000, right?
Yeah, which is way better than, 1,600 or 1,800, which is initially shared.
Yeah.
If you scroll down. If you go all the way down to the bottom, keep going, that's the DPW project and that's, here we go, so here's the DPW impact, so, we were at 965. And the DPW is at 655. So we get pretty close to $1,600 annually.
This is such bad timing.
Think of it as a 2-for-1.
But our kids don't go into the DPW
Hey, look,
facility.
they need roads.
Yeah.
We need roads to get to school.
Can we make them like promise to do field trips and have kids come look at the trucks and,
I'm looking forward to the DPW tours. That'll be
yeah.
fun. So this is where we are. I mean, there's been a lot of work, a lot of man hours that have gone into this plan. I'm very appreciative of the work that's been done by the finance committee and select board to think about this, put a roadmap out there so that as boards turn over, people know that there was a plan in place. When we go to the town and ask for the money, we can say, hey, look, we've had a lot of needs. We've created, there's been a lot of new buildings in town, the library, the senior center. We just finished paying off some other buildings. This is how we plan to do it. This is the ask of the taxpayer. This is what the town plans to do out of free cash. I think it's well thought out and I'm in support of it. So if you folks have any questions or concerns, or if you want to propose any edits, now's the time. If we're good with it, we can move to accept it. And again, I'll emphasize it's a working document, so numbers, there's legislative risk in all of this, so things change, everybody acknowledges that. Once we start on the Shaker Lane project, we have to finish it. We hope it comes in under budget and on time, but things can change with the town's finances, so it can change with our need. Other capital projects can creep up. Everybody's just got to continue to work together and work hard to keep an eye on the needs and and how we think we're going to pay for all this.
Any edits?
I really appreciate the planning, but also the collaboration because it's not a competition. It all affects the citizens and the taxpayers and really doing it in this collaborative way. So.
My major concern was the commitment to the $400,000 spend for capital projects, because obviously that's not sustainable for us. Where we're going to self-fund our own projects to a level of 400 grand. The way that the other boards understand that is, of course, you need to, as outlined in that financial policies working group document, you need to make, you should maintain a healthy balance of 10% of your total budget. Once you approach that threshold, then you start to come back to us and ask for capital projects money. And certainly things like HVAC units, roof spoilers, that all exceeds 400 grand anyways, and we plan to use the MSBA programs for that. And as I said, the town, in addition to this, the town has a free cash plan for those projects as well. Makes it all the more impressive. So,
No motion.
you may.
Motion to approve the debt exclusion override management plan for 2025. This is plan for the DPW and the Shaker Lane building project.
Made by Stacy,
Second?
seconded by Elaine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Folks will be very happy. we'll roll through our subcommittee reports. Before we do that, is there any other new business or topics the school committee wishes to discuss this evening? If everybody can see. All right, you want to roll through the subcommittee topic, subcommittee? PMBC, Shaker Lane?
The only update we have is just that we had what was the last meeting that was just had sorry, sustainability meeting, which was that, so it's not well attended. So I unfortunately wasn't able to go, so I don't know if the attendance was. But other than that, I don't have any other updates. You guys have this line.
And they had their first sustainability meeting. They started looking at scenarios and costs. The electric option, all electric options, seem pretty enticing. Apparently, and please correct me if I don't have the whole story, is that is pretty well built into the original numbers we have, although they're not solid numbers yet. They were thinking that, so that's a good thing. It does get us to the level that we need to be at for additional reimbursement.
Okay, that's good.
With MSBA. So now it's a matter of just, making sure those numbers are accurate and making sure nothing else was missed going forward. So I would imagine that the Shaker Lane Building Committee within the next month probably have a vote on what system we should be moving forward with that project. I think the goal of the sustainability committee was to ensure that we were as green as possible without costing us more money. And also meet the standard to get greater reimbursement.
Correct. If we meet the MSBA standard, it's an additional 3% reimbursement for the qualified approved portion of the budget. So additional 3%. So that's a
Is that
good thing.
just for the whole project or just for
No, it's
The system.
just the system? Not just system, but.
it's
that's
additional 3% of the project.
of the entire project.
I believe so.
So committing to that adds
Right.
substantial. amount.
I think we need to check on that.
Right. But
I think we need to check.
But understand, not like the building portion itself is like 85 million, whatever that number is. Of the 85 million, I'm going to use 85 million for the total building project. Not all of that is completely 100% reimbursable from MSBA. It's very complicated with MSBA.
There was also a communications meeting today. Michelle chaired a meeting with myself and a couple of staff and some community members talking about, first of all, major kudos to the big electronic sign as you come into town. I came home one night and went, this is awesome. So it's very visible. And we talked about some of the other things that had been done so far to communicate the project to the town. Other things, Michelle does have 50 yard signs sitting ready to get out. And minus like, I think 5 that I'm gonna get placed. So but if you have a place where cars drive by, someone who has a place that cars drive by a lot. I believe that she said the yard signs have like a QR code that can lead you to more information. So it's informational. It's to get it out there.
Yep.
And she has a stack of flyers that we talked about perhaps using at the library. Some of the things we talked about were looking into and thinking about holding some kind of visibility, either a meeting at the library, or at least a poster or two at the library that maybe we could then advertise another event. I've seen the town really like show up at the library, and when there's an event, and there have been some issues that have come up. And once we hold some events at the library and people show up, everyone seems to feel like they've been better informed. But that's a gut feeling. I don't have any data for you on that. And the other, I did bring up, I have had a couple people offer to, hold a house meeting. And I don't know the efficacy of that, except that, someone who sat with some other people in a quiet situation and really talked it through might become an even more informed ambassador within the town. So those are things we're floating. As someone who asked me about it, I sent on to Michelle to discuss. He offered, he's people I met, and it's a pregnant couple in town who's very interested in this project. And it would be, a good host for the area. So, the other community members were very enthusiastic, very excited about going down to the library on a Saturday morning and maybe handing out postcards or flyers, or just really starting to talk to people and get people involved. So we are looking forward to the town meeting, and there's a very strong suggestion that our town meeting presentation include 2 or 3 meetings like we did last time. Here we're giving you all this information. We're going to answer a few questions, and we have 2 or 3 building tours. They're on these dates, so you can come and get even more information, kind of thing. So, but people are really interested in a whole variety. Some young people, a grandfather, so people are getting interested. It's a good meeting.
Yeah, good to hear.
Yeah, that's nice, said she, Megan. Awesome.
When's the miniature golf thing at the library?
Tomorrow night, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, that would have been great to have a poster or something. I
Can you
don't,
get one of the yard signs there or something?
We can get you some posters.
What's that? Oh,
We can get you some posters.
yeah,
if you want.
there you go. Could you bring? Or
I could
did you
take it
get a
down.
thing?
I could take it down. Yeah.
We have some runoff, don't we, Dorothy, at work?
These?
The posters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can stop by tomorrow, we'll.
Sure. I'll go talk to the people at the library. I'm sure they'll be happy to put them on.
Maybe even bring some of the yard signs, because there's a lot of people are gonna cycle through the library
Yeah,
for that event.
yeah,
And if they've got a piece of property on a main
main way,
way, then by all means, take a sign.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you could reach out to Michelle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I meant to go by there tomorrow anyway,
Oh,
so
perfect.
we'll
Great idea.
yeah, that's it. I had the same, I didn't want to make everyone go crazy about it, but you're right, just like a quick yard signs and just some little more of information in the librarians, you say this, I'm sure they're gonna be like, put it right there.
Sure. Yeah, just encourage people to take them.
Yeah,
If we find the van up in the dumpster, we'll know, people are too happy about the project. We're getting sabotaged.
We'll recycle them.
Yeah.
we're gonna.
Yeah, and if people are interested in having these open houses, there's no such thing as bad PR for this, so
Yeah.
jump at the opportunity and we can, all hands on deck, we can figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get some information. I just thought, if someone had a place and they wanted to invite about 4 or 5 or 6 of their neighbors in who were talking about it and just to chat, like I said, it gives people the opportunity to really become very informed ambassadors. So if we think of it in terms of, we're not just talking to 4 people, we're talking to 4 people and all the people they're going to talk to.
Does anybody know what level of money was raised for the Castle in the Trees project? Does anybody recall?
I'm sure we could find it. I don't.
Do schools do anything like that? Do they look for private fundraising, naming rights on the library or anything like that? I know that it's kind of a drop in the bucket when it's a $104 million school, but
We did sell bricks from my field years ago.
I get it. I use the bigger number on purpose to make it like,
Interesting.
Yeah,
Just trying to get to there.
Justin, we did sell bricks,
yeah,
but it was through a 501c3. So we have to be cautious. But we could do something like that if we, obviously, we're gonna be using some bricks around the school. We could.
Yeah,
we could
I mean,
do a
that's just-
similar kind of thing.
Even though the financial contribution might not be, a huge impact, it's a sense of sort of community buy-in.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a commitment.
It's kind of a yes vote.
Yeah.
Brian a brick.
you buy a brick.
Yeah, we should look into stuff like that.
Yeah.
We still have some time. But
I'll check with our
I think we
lawyer on
have some
that.
time to look into stuff like this. We should do it if we think it makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it certainly doesn't hurt. So something tangible like having your family name or your, all of your family names on a brick is enticing because it's there. Forever.
Right. Yeah, a great time for all the Littleton philanthropic people to come out of the woodworks. Naming rights at the school.
But it also makes people feel like it wasn't just their tax money, like other people who had more money really invested in it. I mean, I think it just takes the sting out of it sometimes to see that kind of situation.
Right. Budget subcommittee, great job tonight, budget subcommittee. Thanks, Kelly and Steve. Policy subcommittee.
Nothing new.
Okay, policy subcommittee rest, Shaker Lane, we're already all set on.
I do have a couple of things that Lynn asked me to talk about this evening. CPAC, is it, or business more correctly? On May 6th, at 7 p.m. at Littleton Fire Station, they're going to be hosting an evening titled From Struggles to Success, Insights from Young Adults. They're going to have a panel that includes graduates and grade 12 students, something that we've been talking around the leadership table about doing for years. And kudos to CPAC for doing this, starting this project off for us. So this is going to be an excellent event. The information that can be gained from attending something like this certainly be helpful for everyone. And there's a CPAC parent meetup Tuesday, March 18th, 7 p.m. at TACA Asian Fusion Bar Area up in the Point. So you want to go out for an evening and socialize with CPAC members in the community. So a great opportunity. So the food's really good there as well.
Good.
Special thanks to our teachers tomorrow. We're doing a marathon, school conference marathons tomorrow. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody, good luck with your parent-teacher conferences. All set, no other subcommittee reports or business before the school committee? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Vino,
I'll second.
seconded by Janine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have adjourned. 8:43.